Hello, good evening, and a very warm welcome. For our next face-to-face, I have with me our guest Syed Mahmood Akhter, who is a former IRS officer. Presently, he is the CEO of IDO, which is Alliance for Economic and Educational Development of the Underprivileged, which is dedicated to empowering disadvantaged communities through education and economic initiatives. Throughout his tenure, he held significant roles in customs and the Ministry of Minority Affairs, where he has played key part in welfare reforms, including amending the Waqf Act and restructuring the Maulana Azad Foundation. Akhtar has represented India in international forums like SAARC, and as the first secretary in Nepal, he led relief efforts after the 2015 earthquake. Trained by U.S. Homeland Security, he has worked extensively in cross-border trade, anti-smuggling, and cultural diplomacy. He has received National Award and Bureaucrat of the Year Award also. Welcome, sir, to our next episode of Expert Insights. Pleasure to have you in our show.
Thank you, Naushad Sahab. It's a real pleasure on my part. And to be face to face with you, I have been watching some interviews which you have taken. They are very insightful. They bring out the best in the person with you are interviewing with a lot of insights.
Yeah.
So I am indeed thankful to you and eager to go on with this interview. Thanks.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so kindly, sir. Sir, for our viewers, can you please tell us how does IDO approach the dual challenges of education and economic upliftment of the underprivileged?
Actually, the full form is Alliance for the Economic and Educational Development of the Underprivileged.
Yeah.
Now, when this was conceived about 3 years back, this idea, the founders, I will come to the founders, the founders realized that the need of the hour was to provide quality education to the underprivileged children and the students. By saying quality education, we mean that the education which they are getting has to be super honed so that confidence building measures are given to them, adopted by them. Communication skills are to be further channelized and honed by them. And elementary subjects like English speaking, English writing, computers, now artificial intelligence, mathematics, those kind of things are not only ingrained in their learning and teaching methods, they are also made a part of their curriculum. So IDO started with the idea of providing quality education to ensure a good livelihood for these people when they grow up. That is the idea. We did not envisage an educational platform where we could just give them education and leave them there. That was not the idea, and that is still not the idea. So by way of providing quality education, we ensure, at the moment we have 8 study centers across the country. One is in Lucknow, one is in Meerut, one is in Nuh, Haryana, 3 are in Delhi, and 2 of them are in Bihar, including an ITI in Bihar, which are totally sponsored by our IDO. Now, one more thing, before I will just let me conclude this particular reply. The final, the icing on the cake, if I can call it, was to provide capacity building measures to the teachers who are teaching them. So that way we are doing an exercise not only to give education and livelihood means, we are also providing better teaching methodology to the teachers. That's what it is. I will also introduce, with your permission, the founders of IDO. We have, we have Honorable Rahman Khan Sahab, who was Minister of Minority Affairs. We have Lieutenant General Shah Sahab, who was Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University and Deputy Chief of the Indian Army. We have Dr. S.Y. Qureshi Sahab, who was Chief Election Commissioner. We have Dr. Najib Jang Sahab, who was Vice Chancellor Jamia Millia and LG, ex-LG. We have Shahid Siddiqui Sahab, ex-Member of Parliament and author, of repute. Recently, his book has been released, and I was there. And then we have Mr. Saeed Sherwani Sahab, a corporate person who has been providing us with good financial inputs and helping us. So these are the persons who have envisioned I do. And I, being the CEO of this, I have been trying to put that vision to the best of. We have our limitations. We have financial, limitations. We have resources which are not very high, but still we are trying to go strong. And whatever we have been doing in capacity building, in providing quality education, skill development measures, we are trying to do it. That's how it is.
So, what kind of impact has I2 made so far, and what are your future goals for the organization? Any target you have been emphasized for the coming decade or so, or maybe 5 years or 10 years?
Yes, as I told you, this organization, this alliance is only 3 years old.
Yeah.
So the initial target was to have at least 100 to 150 students across the country at 30 in one community center, one study center. Yeah. We have achieved that target, and we have more than 150 students. Emphasis is on the most backward of the underprivileged, if I can call it so. Sorry, I'm using this word, but it has to be used because that is the reality of life. Yeah. And the other thing which we have been harping on is that females, the ladies, have to be brought forth, and quality education should be given in such a manner that they are not in any way deprived of the education which is given to the boys. Now, if we take a roadmap, since we started 3 years, if we have reached 150 students, by the coming 5 years or maybe coming 8 years, we want this target to reach at least 2,000, 2,500 across the country, minimum. Yeah. And along with it, because many a time it is felt, it is seen that quantity in a way stops quality. Yeah. Or debunks quality. So we don't feel that. We want the quality to be maintained. The teachers which we are employing to teach them, we are employing audio-visual methods. Believe me, I have been to the study centers, and the students whom I have seen, very sharp and focused. But what they lack is economic freedom. They lack space in their own house to study. They are not having access to good books, libraries, educational tours, lectures, talks, because we are catering to an age group between 4 or maybe 4 to 5 to 14 to 18. Yeah. That is the highest limit which we are having. So many of them are matured enough to understand. Many of them are simply impressionable, but very sharp. When I have talked to the girls in Noor or in Delhi, we are having a center in Hazrat Nizamuddin Madrasa. Yeah. And I will invite you, sir, to come and see that place one of these days so that you can see with your own eyes how are they shaping up. Okay. And the quality of education which we try to give is of a very good quality, because one thing which struck us was, and which struck our founders was, the EWS scheme, economically weaker sections scheme. Yeah. Many minority students, marginalized students get admitted under the EWS schemes to very many prestigious schools of Delhi or outside. Yeah. But to continue in that class, to go on with the classes is a very tough challenge for them. Once they reach home, they start crying. They don't feel confident enough to face other children in their own class. The teachers think that they are a burden, and sooner or later they would like to get rid of them. I'm sorry to say this. Yeah. So we are trying to provide a leverage, a support to them by providing them tutorials, extra classes, guiding them in subjects which we find that they are weak. That is how we are trying. That is the roadmap which we envisage in the coming days.
Okay. Sir, as someone who has closely watched cultural diplomacy, what role do you think cultural diplomacy plays in strengthening international relations, keeping in mind that even cultural diplomacy has been stopped between India and Pakistan? So how important is cultural diplomacy to strengthen relations between two countries, particularly with India and any other country?
Actually, if you go to the origin of the word cultural, you will have to go a bit further, and you will have to understand, we will have to understand soft power diplomacy.
Yeah.
This word was coined by one Professor Joseph Nye in the Harvard University in US. And the idea was, there are, as one understands today, there are two types of diplomacy: tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 2 is the backstage, and the tier 1 is the official diplomacy. Now, this particular cultural diplomacy is a third thing. But again, I will say this is the cake itself, not the icing on the cake. If we develop good relations with our neighbors, we follow the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of neighbors first, we follow it. And the government has been following it. We also try to understand what can we share with our good neighbors. Education is the prime thing. Culture is the second thing. Good food and cuisine. Would you believe that food and cuisine is one of the best attractive menus on the table when 4 or 5 countries meet?
Yeah.
They relish the food of each other, the cuisine of each other. Yeah. They relish the culture of each other. The dances, the ghazals, the songs, the sopranos, the choirs, all of them are part of it. But the most important part, which I realized, in fact, post my retirement, and even while in service in Nepal as first secretary, and post-retirement, I joined Indian Council for Cultural Relations. I realized that the education and the scholarship is one thing which binds the world together. We will find students from Bangladesh coming to study in Delhi. We will find Nepalese students, African students, boys and girls. We will find students from West Asia, from Israel, from Palestine. You name it, everywhere they used to come. Right. Now, why do they come to India? And what do they gain? The cultural diplomacy main, one of the root bases is to provide them high quality education in the institutions of their liking, of their choice. They may like to go to IITs, they may like to go to excellent colleges, Delhi University, Aligarh Muslim University, Banaras Hindu University, Bangalore University, things like that. And once they complete their education in the given Indian environment, in the given Indian conditions, with the help of the excellent faculties which we have in India and the research facilities which we have in India, once they go back to their own country, they go back as unofficial ambassadors of this country. And as long as they are in service in their own country, they will remember India. They do remember India. Yeah. Many of them have come back as ambassadors themselves to India. Many of them have become presidents and prime ministers in their own countries. And we realize that once they come to India, they often refer to that they had their education in India only. Yeah. So that is cultural diplomacy, which we follow.
Yeah. So can you also share some insights from your earlier training experience with the US Homeland Security and how it has shaped your future professional goals and career?
Yes, it is slightly, what should I say, inimical to the culture part which we are discussing. But you have raised a very pertinent question. Yeah. The training given by the Homeland Security to me was based on my deployment on the Atari border and Delhi. Northern India was my charge. I was working at the Indo-Pakistan border at Atari as a senior customs officer. Yeah. And somehow, the American intelligence got a whiff of it, maybe through our official channels, maybe through their own resources. And they approached my office, my head office, saying that we want to train this particular officer along with others. So the office gave their consent, and I was taken to UAE, where a 2 weeks training took place, totally governed by the US Homeland Security. We had colleagues from Pakistan, we had people from Afghanistan, Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, UAE, all these people were along with me. Now, the best part of this training was a concept of profiling. Instead of going on a wild goose chase, as intelligence officers often do, or they tend to do, the US intelligence bases its total concepts on profiling a person much before he is coming to a particular country, or much before he is taking a prominent place in a country which they have been keeping surveillance on. And this critical sort of a identification also has roots in bilateralism and multilateralism. It is a sort of affirmative action which they want to provide to the trainee. And they say that we are not here to tell you how to catch a person or to punish a person. You have got your own laws for that. We are only here to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to say. Don't harass a person who is innocent, and don't leave a person who is a notorious criminal, or he is a person of some international espionage gang or terrorist gang or whatever. So that was very useful. Along with that, another thing which we learned from that training was how to coordinate with other countries. That is a very important part. We have laws in different countries. The laws of India are very different from the laws of USA. I'll give you an example. In India, a search warrant for a particular search is signed by the officer who is of a level of a deputy secretary in the government of India in the revenue department. In America, in USA, it is signed by a federal judge. And no search can take place unless and until the federal judge is convinced that this particular case requires a physical search of the premises of the person concerned. So we learned this also. We also learned that the laws of Bangladesh, laws of Nepal, so far as Anti-Terrorism Act or Counterfeit Act is concerned, have to be harmonized. So we learned to understand, to coexist with each other's shortcomings and with each other's plus points. That was the main part of training. It was a sort of cultural brotherhood, if I can call it. In the evening, we used to sit together and talk about each other's cultures, each other's relative sort of an access to each other's lives. And that was the most interesting part, along with the professional one. That was it.
Yeah. So what lessons have you learned from your work across academia, bureaucracy, and diplomacy?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I really appreciate this question. You know, I started my career way back in Jharkhand as a lecturer of English literature and language. I taught for 3 years. My father was a professor. My father was chairman of the Education Commission and a Fulbright scholar too. So I learned the tricks of teaching, or the nuances of teaching, right, in my early youth. Once I completed that particular phase of my life and joined the Indian Revenue Service, it was again academic for me along with laws. I taught at the National Academy of Revenue, and I taught for 3 years. I used to teach the revenue laws, anti-smuggling laws, coexistence laws, those kind of things we used to teach. Now, when I took over the reins as a typical bureaucrat, the academic part was still alive. Of course, it took the back seat, because there you have to be very structured. You have to be very punctual in your approach, very structured in your approach, follow the rule. You are the implementing authority of the laws. So a bureaucrat is practically an implementing authority of the laws by the legislature, by the diplomats of the tall order, and he has to follow it not only in letter but in spirit. That the thing which is finally delivered is in always aligned to the laws of the land. And finally, when I became a diplomat, it was a different and very interesting story. Because in the 3 years of diplomacy, I was made to understand that if I can use a very crude term with all due apologies to senior diplomats, a diplomat is one who is sent abroad to lie for his own country. That is how they say it. With all due regard, I'm not. I think it's a compliment.
Some people also say that diplomacy is the art to say and do the nastiest thing in the nicest way.
Absolutely, I agree. And I realized it in my Nepal stay. When I was there as a diplomat, I witnessed two important things in Nepal. In fact, I was the person who carried it through, because I was at the border of India and Nepal, land border. The earthquake, the massive earthquake took place in 2014-15. And we had to rush relief measures from India. So there I realized how important it is not only to save lives on the mountains, The mountains were badly shaken in Nepal. People had died. They had no means of livelihood. So we used to send trucks of medicines, trucks of tarpaulin camps, food items, because Nepal is a landlocked country. So India has to provide them all sorts of, help, or China. But the Chinese border is more than 2,000 kilometers high up on the mountains. India and Nepal share a border which is only 2 kilometers from each other. So the best and quickest way to access Nepal is through the land borders, which I did. And it was a great experience. Second thing was, that was a political one, the other one. The Madhes, so-called Madhes Andolan took place when the constitution was being drafted for the second time in Nepal. The government of India, emphasized the fact through the embassy, us, that please keep the sensibilities, the sensitivities of the people who have migrated from India and become Nepalese citizens in mind. They should not be undermined. So that was another experience in which we had to be tough at times, very, very, very soft at times. So it was a Laurel and Hardy story, which we did, but we did it to perfection and we could achieve lots out of it. We must try to inculcate to the children today, and I'm talking it with full experience, which I have had, the gist of all these three. And it should start from the school or the college itself. Because the world is shrinking. The globalization is getting, closer and closer and closer. A person sitting in USA should know what is the natural beauty of India. And a person sitting in Nepal should understand what are the trade rigors or the cultural rigors which are felt in Sri Lanka. So that can be a part of academia, which can be taught. Educational pursuits can be followed right from the senior stages of the schools and colleges. The diplomacy can also be honed in, because a lot of people are now unofficial ambassadors. You can see that there are very good musicians, very good, professionals who are giving lectures, talks, and they are accepted across the world. So why not hone these instincts? And once the bureaucracy is a word which is maybe at times slightly negative to my mind, because people think of it creating hurdles. The bureaucracy should not create hurdles, it will facilitate. If you facilitate things with an eye on enforcement, of course, sharp eye, I think the world will be a better place to live in. And our education system has to be strengthened likewise. These students, and especially the underprivileged children, have to be brought to the fore. So that is how it is. So, that was a very good.
If you can share with our viewers, so on what ground you have received Bureaucrat of the Year award?
This was on three things. This I received when I was in the mid of my career. I think the year was 2008 or 7. I had completed half my career in my revenue department, and I was working as director in the Ministry of Minority Affairs. So the persons at large, the jury, they thought that a person who has worked so, devotedly in revenue, how can he be working in a welfare ministry? How can he deliver? But then we delivered. And they realized that bureaucracy is not only getting the work channelized through a particular medium like enforcement. Bureaucracy is also facilitation. Bureaucracy is also helping each other. Bureaucracy is also trying to uplift the conditions and the morale of the underprivileged. So that is the reason they selected me as Bureaucrat of the Year, and they gave me a commendation for that along with a medal.
If you remember, Minority Minister, when you were a part of that ministry, and if you look at today, how would you like to compare, if you wish to answer this question?
Yeah, sure. In fact, today also, I go to the Ministry of Minority Affairs on various occasions. I meet the senior officers there because I have my roots there. So they also call me, I also go. In our days, when the Ministry of Minority Affairs was carved out from Ministry of Social Justice, year was 2006, and finally it grew. So we had the idea of ensuring that, let me tell you, minorities does not mean any one particular community. It means 5. Now it is 6. The Christians are there, the Parsis are there, the Buddhists are there, The Sikhs are there, the Muslims are there, and now the Jains are also there. So we try to accommodate the aspirational vision of all these communities through various acts. Like the Muslims had the Waqf Act, the Dargah Khaja Sahab Act, and the Maulana Azad Foundation. The Christians had a different set of things when they came for meetings. They used to say that let our culture, let our education be protected, let our minoritism be given the respect which it deserves. Similarly, the Sikhs, the Buddhists, and the Parsis all had different sort of yearnings and different sort of requirements which we tried to fulfill. And I can't say that we were able to fulfill all which we wanted in those days, but majority, by creating scholarship slots, post-matric, pre-matric, coaching and allied, these kind of scholarships, the models we created, Maulana Azad was created, and not created, it was strengthened. And with a corpus of a good amount of money, which was given in the annual budgets. Those things, today, I think they are lacking. They are lacking. And somebody has to be I don't know whether he has to be a crusader or something, or the political leadership has to look into it. But to my mind, this ministry is a very important and a pivotal ministry to cater to a large section of minorities in the country, to keep them mentally safe and to make them confident. It has to be brought back to its original agenda. That's what I feel.
So, in your view, what is the biggest barrier to educational and economic equity in India today? And if I can add, when you look at education today, what makes you happy and what troubles you the most?
Look here, the Indian landscape is basically social inequalities are there. The caste system is there. Even in the Muslims or any other community which you take, those things have crept in. But the biggest problem which they face is economic inequality, lack of access. They do not have access. The marginalized children, and the majority of them are marginalized today. I am seeing them and I do. I have seen them in the Ministry of Minority Affairs. I have seen them on the borders of Indo-Nepal, the madrasas and the schools which exist there. They feel that they do not have access to the best libraries, the best education, and the inequalities, the bridge is getting bigger and bigger. So in order to fill that bridge, that concept of bringing them on the table with equal confidence and with equal foray, we require to build a composite atmosphere where the underprivileged do not feel that they have been neglected in any manner. And this disparity, and there is one more thing, especially in the last 10 years, abrupt commercialization of education. If you look at it, you go to a government college or a government school, people are not very satisfied with the curriculum. And you go to a private institution, the costs are so exorbitantly high that a common man cannot afford it. What to talk about the underprivileged? They will never be able to afford it. So the society at large, the government, the people who are concerned with it must ensure that the best educational avenues are opened up for them at the least financial issues. The financial doors are opened so that they can have an access to the best quality, the research, training, and as on date, the skill development part, the entrepreneurship part. That is very important, and that is where the gap has to be bridged, and things have to be taken to a logical conclusion. That's what I feel.
So you have played an important role in the Waqf Amendment. What is your concern when you look at Waqf Amendment Act today? Any particular concern, or any particular reservation?
Yes. I will have to take you slightly back into history. When allow me this kindly. When we drafted this amendment in 2013-14, I was a part of the team. I was one of the members of the team. We divided the entire amendment into 4 categories. The first category is the spiritual, the religious, or the Sharia spirit of Sharia. Because you cannot have the Waqf unless you have the Sharia. You cannot. We understood it. All the secretaries were non-Muslims, but they fully respected it. The law secretary, the secretary of the minority affairs, they said, Mahmood, we are not going to interfere in your Sharia, but the amendment is a part of the parliamentary dictum. The laws have been drafted, the act has been drafted, the government of India reserves the right to amend it anytime they feel like. The legislative part is very important. That is the reason we brought out the amendments, the draft. I will come to the final points. The third part was the administrative point. Because the Central Waqf Council is the only authority which is governed by the Ministry of Minority Affairs at the central level. The state Waqf boards are entities in their own rights because they report to the state governments. So their way of working is totally guided by the state government's way of working. In order to create a harmonious thing, the administrative structure had to be streamlined. The chief executive officer had to be of a senior level. Believe me, I took about 18 states, I took the Joint Parliamentary Committee across the country. I was the coordinating director from the ministry. And it was an experience. The best Waqf board which we saw was in the south, Kerala, Bangalore, Hyderabad, you can name it. But as we traveled down to UP, Bihar, Odisha, things started dwindling. And things dwindled to this extent that we found that certain Waqf boards had peons or upper division clerks as CEOs. They were working as CEOs. How could you expect them to talk with the senior officers of the state government when they don't have the authority to deal with them? So we recommended that the state Waqf boards should have three basic things. They must identify the Waqf properties and digitize it, put it on the computers. Second thing, they must have a structure of governance. The chief executive officer to report to the Waqf board, elected bodies, having 2 ladies representatives, 2 chartered accountants, 2 company secretaries, faculty from the universities, and retired bureaucrats. So we wanted to give it a composite touch. And the fourth part, which we tried to intervene and streamline, was the judicial part. We had realized that sorry to say this, one of the biggest encroachments on the Waqf properties is by the government itself. Everywhere we found it. And state government and central government. So those Waqf properties had to be identified. The encroachment had to be undone. The district magistrate, through the chief executive officer, was supposed to be informed and supposed to be requested for taking action against these encroachers so that the Waqf property could be restored to the rightful people and the purpose of Waqf, for which the Waqf has been created, could be delivered. The purpose of Waqf is to enhance the educational, health, and other requirements of the community through various means. The widows had to be taken care of. Orphans had to be educated and fed properly. These things, excepting some Waqf boards in the south, were not there to be seen. So we thought of creating Waqf tribunals, which could fast track Waqf issues. If you go to the High Court or the Supreme Court, it takes years and years and years for the Waqf matters to come. There are much more important matters there. But if you create a tribunal, finely balanced tribunal, with judicial member and member technical and a person who knows the Waqf Act and everything, the Sharia, maybe he can track it down to a fast mechanism and justice could be delivered. So these amendments were carried out keeping in mind all these 4 things. The latest amendment, which I have seen, the latest one, I find that the focus is not on this. The focus is on basically to ensure that the people who are of non-Muslim faith are incorporated. That's fine. I don't have, because you have ex officio members. The DM can be ex officio member without the right to vote. He can attend the meetings as no harm. But don't try to bulldoze certain things which the Waqf does not represent. The Waqf represents a particular ideology, a particular inherent Sharia-based ideology, which must be maintained at all costs. And the most important part, the Waqf land should not be sold, auctioned, or mortgaged or gifted. Because as it is, we have suffered a lot. We have put a knife into our own backs. We went to 18 states and we saw it. Many of the land, major chunk has been sold off. So the thing which has been sold off, it's very difficult to get it back. at least try to save what has not gone out of our hands. So Waqf properties have to be kept intact and ensured that some charitable action is derived out of it. That's it.
So finally, as you have extensively worked in cross-border trade, based on your experience, anything you wish to suggest which can help in cross-border trade, and why do you think it is necessary at this particular time?
You know, the famous Chinese philosopher and sage Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one small step. Yeah. So instead of going to big countries like US, of course they are important, or Russia or China, yeah, if we are able to maintain border trade with our neighbors, yeah, and I have, yes, you're going to say something?
If I can interrupt, even today the 50% tariff has been.
Yes, it is. It is unfortunate, so to say. It is most unfortunate, but I'm sure there will be, via media, there will be means to work out a solution. I'm sure of it. Our departments are quite capable of negotiating through a tough, negotiation. I'm sure of it. Yeah. But coming to trade, the how you treat your neighbors with respect, how you treat the trade relations, because trade relations are not only buying and selling. They are much more than that. They are not only buying and selling and banking. They are investments. They are cultural exchange. Yeah. You know, the famous philosopher and poet Maya Angelou. Yeah. I have always read her books. Maya Angelou used to say that people will forget what you talk about. People will forget what you act, what you do. People will never forget how you treat other people. Yeah. How you treat them. So the trade is a part of treating your neighbors, treating the thing along with commerce, along with sharing of merchandise, a way of life. You export items which are part of your livelihood, and they import items which are part of their particular culture. So the trade, either multilateral trade across the countries to bigger ones, traversing 1,000 miles, has to be strong, or the trade which one shares with the neighbors, it has to be equally strong. Because I have worked in the SAARC land customs. I have traveled to practically all the countries neighboring us. I found them very eager to have trade with us, to have cultural exchanges with us, to have educational linkages with us, to have common heritage. I mean, of course, the diversionary forces or the forces of enmity are also there on the borders. I won't deny it. There are a lot of issues, yeah, especially with the migration of people. But the basic concept of people-to-people contact, yeah, of positive action through trade remains there. And I'm sure that India is strong enough to carve out a niche for itself in having excellent, harmonious trade relations across the globe.
So anything you would like to say on the particular organization about SAARC, because it is more or less defunct and nothing is happening on that note?
As the moment, yes, you are right. Yeah. But it will bounce back, take my words. The call of the Himalayas is there. The call of the Indus is there. The call of a lot of cultural linkages is there. And it will bounce back because the countries which are members of SAARC, they have got their own linkages to each other, which go back to years of civilizational history. Yeah. It is definitely that heritage, that civilizational history, which is now being played on a fresh ground. But the instinct, but the basic grandeur remains the same. So I am sure it will bounce back. It's a question of political timing. And once the timing is set right, once the set is clock right, it will come back to its original shape.
Okay, sir. Thanks for sharing your perspective. We'll be back next time with another expert. Thanks for watching. Take care. Keep your environment clean. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been very nice. Thank you.